Okay.
You want to go ahead and talk?
Talk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Testing.
And then we're still planning on intros and then maybe providing a little context on the PSA before the PSA plays. So, just, Meryl will kick it. Meryl will kick it over to you. You can say a little bit about it, and then she wants to play it twice. Oh,
Twice?
back to back. She said first time is like and then second time people take more in.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's very cool. What does it represent?
It's a great story. Scott wanted to tell you. Basically, it's a coastal oak representing the four seasons. So, like the process of innovation, it's very simple. Sometimes we understand some of the phases more than once or twice. And that's the basis that Scott has much better.
Oh, wow. It's very cool. Love it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Chuck's going to do an introduction.
Okay, sure,
And
yeah.
then I'll have you set up the PSA.
Okay.
And then I'm going to have them show it twice.
Yeah, that's what Wendy was saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I just like doing that for my
Yeah.
own students when we listen to music because
Yeah.
they can kind of take in more stuff.
Yeah, of course. Cool.
That would be really cool. Okay, cool.
You want to use a step on the other side if you want to walk around.
Oh, I don't care about that. Which side do you
I'll do
like
left.
this
Yeah, I
side?
like left.
And then we have a link to your website too, so we've also so I know at the end of the PSA,
Yeah.
go there with it.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Perfect. All right.
I have more.
Lots of water. Woo.
It's not
All right,
the setup you have.
welcome.
Oh, it's on my Rubik's Cube.
Yeah. Okay, I mean this way here? Okay.
Hey, Adam, throw me one.
Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to what I consider to be one of the most special events that we've had this semester. Welcome to our fireside chat. I'm Chuck DeLeone. I'm the Dean of Graduate Studies and Research here at Cal State San Marcos. And I've got to say that the events so far today have reminded me of what it's like to be at a university and why it is so amazing. Our two colleagues here, Meryl and Jen, who's out visiting, what I saw this morning was just wonderful. And it started a conversation that I really hope continues here right now. So I'm going to read their bios. We'll walk through. I'm going to read Jen's first, and then I will read Meryl's. I see we have one Yankee fan out there. Warning. But we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. I hear Juan Soto might be headed to the Yankees, but we'll talk about that. Okay, so our guest today, Jen Easterly, is the Director of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CSUSM. She is a proud mom, a mental health advocate, a Rubik's Cube enthusiast, and an aspiring electric guitarist. Before joining CSUSM, Jen led the firm-wide resilience effort at Morgan Stanley after a lengthy public service career that includes serving at the White House twice, helping to start up the Army's first cyber battalion, and more than 20 years of service in intelligence and cyber operations, including tours of duty in Haiti, the Balkans, Iraq, and Afghanistan. And our own Meryl Goldberg. Meryl is a professor of music at California State University, San Marcos, and director of the Art Equal Opportunity Program, a research-based initiative providing youth leadership training, literacy, residencies, professional development, I think I need my glasses, professional development workshops, and advocacy tools for educators, parents, youth, and teens, and art providers. A professional musician herself, Goldberg knows firsthand the powerful role arts play in students' ability to excel in education, attain better jobs, and become empathetic citizens. Originally from Boston, Goldberg's undergraduate degree is from New England Conservatory of Music, and her master's and doctorate is from Harvard Graduate School of Education. And of course, Meryl is a Red Sox fan. So I will turn it over to you guys. Here we go.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Chuck. Welcome, everybody, and welcome everybody who's on the live stream. This is just a super exciting, wonderful opportunity for us. Thanks, Jen, for being here, and
My
thanks,
pleasure.
Lisa, and the whole team. And so the fireside chat today is about the outreach that CSUSM is doing, PSAs, which are public service announcements, and this really caught my attention, especially because CSUSM has taken the opportunity to use art and music and theater and lighting and storytelling as a way to really get the message out. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the really important things that you're doing is getting messages out to people, ordinary people, or people even like me who really didn't know what cybersecurity was, 2 years ago. Because the message of what you do seems to me probably as important as the mechanics and the kinds of things that people who work on computers do. So with that, I'm going to let you set up the PSA, and then we're going to show you the latest PSA. It's only a minute long, so we're going to actually watch it twice. So the first time you watch it, you can take everything in. The second time, see what it is you notice or you wonder, or what you see the second time that you didn't see the first time. And I do this with some of you are my students. You know I do this in music class too. We listen twice because we hear a whole lot more the second time. So with that, I'm going to let Director Jen set us up here.
So great to be with you. Hey, everybody. So just a little bit about CSUSM, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. We love security so much we had to have it twice in our name. It's really hard to say. It's why we always go by CSUSM. Newest agency in the federal government. We were stood up just in November 2018, so just turned 5, to be America's cyber defense agency. So we're not a military agency, although we have a lot of veterans. We're not an intelligence agency. We're not a law enforcement agency. We're not a regulator. We are fundamentally a partnership agency charged to lead the national effort to understand, manage, and reduce risk to the cyber and physical infrastructure that Americans rely on every hour of every day to get healthcare and education and water and transportation and power and finance. So these really are the networks and the systems and the data that underpin and power our daily lives. And now that everything is digitized, we all have to have some baseline understanding about how to keep ourselves safe online. And so part of what we're doing at CSUSM, as America's Cyber Defense Agency, is we're really on a mission to educate, inform, and inspire those from K through Gray about how to keep ourselves and our families and our communities and our businesses safe and secure online. And the great news is it's not that hard, okay? So I know sometimes people get intimidated by cyber threats and it's so technical, I don't understand it. So at the end of the day, there's some very basic things that can be done to keep ourselves safe online. And we typically refer to that as cyber hygiene. And really, we want to make cyber hygiene as common as brushing your teeth, washing your hands, putting on your seatbelt. And that's really what this PSA campaign is all about, is what are the 4 basic things that you need to do to stay safe online. And you'll see them here, but let me ask, what do you think those 4 things are? Anybody has any idea? Just throw out some guesses. Update your cell phone. Yeah, like update your software, right? Those little annoying update me, right? So exactly. Good job, Yankees. I'm a Yankees fan too. Yeah. What else we got? Update your software.
Don't reuse passwords.
Don't reuse passwords, exactly. So like complex, unique passwords, and maybe even like a password manager. How many people have password managers? Okay, all right. You should all. So essentially, it's either, usually it's an app. You can just go onto the App Store and you can get a free one. I actually use a free one, but you can pay for one. And essentially it generates and stores complex, unique passwords for all of your sensitive accounts. So really you only have to remember one password, and that's the password to get into your password manager. But it prevents you from reusing your password, or God forbid, password 123. Did you all hear about this recent hack against water facilities around the country? Some of you probably did. Well, one of the reasons why adversaries, and we know it was the Iranians, tried to get into these water facilities, which can be kind of scary, right? You can get into a water facility, you can poison a water facility. And the way that they were able to get in there is they scanned the internet looking for infrastructure that was exposed online so people could see it, an adversary could see it. And then if you hadn't changed your default password, which, what do you think the default password was? 11111, right? It doesn't take a genius to break that. And actually, it was online as like a demo of how the thing works, and they didn't give you the demo about changing your passwords. So yes, gold star. What else? What else do you think? Keep yourself safe online. My favorite. You guys obviously don't follow me on Twitter. This is all I talk about. Anyone? Bueller? Anyone know what multi-factor authentication is? MFA. This is the thing about cyber people. It's like we use the most complicated words to talk about the most important thing. It's really just using another factor than just a password and a login. So whether it's your face or a text message or using an authenticator app or a security ID, it's just another factor. So MFA, enabling MFA. And I'll give you the last one, which is being able to recognize and report phishing. Because we know like over 92% of successful cyber attacks start with the phishing email. You know, those emails you get like, vacation to the Bahamas, click here, right? Now the bad news is these things are going to become so much more efficient and effective with generative AI. So we're going to have to be really good at both like human ability to detect them, but also creating machine solutions. It's just those 4 things, and actually they're really easy to do. But all that said, how we communicate them is really key, right? So we were trying to come up with, because Congress gave us money and authorized a PSA program, and you guys are probably too young to remember, but I grew up in the days of like Smokey, remember Smokey Bear? Yeah. People think it's Smokey the Bear. It's actually just Smokey Bear. Fun fact for you. But with don't fight firefighters, and then there was a whole thing on drugs. This is your brain on drugs, and then Got Milk was a really fun. I'm like, got cyber, and it just didn't work. But so anyway, the team did a bunch of research about like simple messages to help convey what we want people to do, and you'll see the campaign, and then the 4 things that we're asking people to do. And so we wanted to do a commercial, and they brought me these like, a family and a little kind of commercial thing, and I'm like, no, we want to do something different. So it's like, I want you to do 2 treatments. The first one is, does anyone know the director, Wes Anderson? Yeah, so he's one of my favorites. It's like, make it like a Wes Anderson movie. And the people I was giving guidance had no idea who Wes Anderson was. It was like, uh-oh. But they did the research on it, so you might recognize a little bit of it. And I said the second one, I want to do something like Schoolhouse Rock. Does anyone remember Schoolhouse Rock? Yeah, a couple of people do. That's how I know the preamble of the Constitution and how a bill became a law. So anyway, we created this thing, we rolled it out in October, and the great news is this campaign is enduring. And so we're going to do other fun things, but it's all over the news and in your local Safeway, according to Ashley, who's every time she goes to Safeway hears the PSA, which makes me happy. But anyway, we wanted to show it to you, and then later on we have some creativity about what could be the next PSA, so maybe we'll get a little bit of feedback on it. So anyway, so should we show it?
We should show it.
Okay, good.
For more information on how to keep yourself and those you care about safe online, go to CISA.gov/secure our world.
All right, so we're going to show it again. By the way, that was Jen's voice at the end. Did you hear that?
Not purposefully, but there's another story on that.
Oh, goody, we can get that story too. So you got the impression, that was your first impression, and hopefully you noticed some of the four, right? So this time, as you're watching it, just see what more you notice, and if you see all four things that we were talking about. Okay, let's see it again. Thanks, Wendy.
For more information on how to keep yourself and those you care about safe online, go to CISA.gov/secure our world.
All right, what'd you guys think?
You know what, I've seen this like a bunch of times now. This is, I think it's because the angle, I've never looked up at it.
Yeah.
I saw the Rubik's Cube next to his
Oh
computer.
yeah, product placement. Exactly. But it's not like your typical thing. You kind of look at it and it makes you sort of think. And so we're really just trying to get people to have fun with it.
How did the team come up with, it's very creative, clearly. And, there's casting, there's background, there's a set, all of that. The team came up and what was?
We had a whole team, my stakeholder engagement team, and they worked with a company who hired and had a creative director and a producer and all of that. And I went out on set and got to tape a little teaser. And it was cool though, because I mean, has anyone seen Asteroid City? It's the latest Wes Anderson. So I think they sort of modeled it off that a little bit. But I thought they did a really nice job in sort of 1 minute. You know, the whole thing, to do this effectively, you have to be a storyteller. And it's hard to tell a full story in 1 minute. And so I thought they did a really nice job of telling a story, introducing you to some characters, and then getting a message across. And so, you know, in something very simple as secure our world, like at the end of the day, I think cyber is sexy, right? But I would, because I'm the head of the cybersecurity agency. But you know, it's hard to make something that can be kind of scary and intimidating, appealing, and so we tried to make it fun.
Yeah, I mean, down to the, you know, the different colors and the, you know, on the different sides and things in the background.
Yeah, a lot of little Easter eggs.
Yeah, it really, really works. Did anyone have a comment about that, or did you see something the second time you didn't see the first time? You noticed the Rubik's Cube also. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you the story of the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to do.
So when I was a kid, I like to say I grew up in a house of cards because my family was one of these families that just loved all kinds of games, card games, board games. You know, I got into video games when I was a little kid. This was in the like 70s. And when I was sort of 11, I think the Rubik's Cube was introduced to the world. It was actually invented by a Hungarian professor of architecture named Erno Rubik. And he designed it, I want to say 1972, but it took until 1980 till it was introduced to the world. And when it hit the stores, I just got obsessed. I got obsessed with solving the thing. And it took me probably a little while. It took me a while to figure out how to solve it. But when I did, I used to go to all the toy stores in the local area and the toy stores when we would travel to places with my parents. And I would make this bet with the toy store owner or the clerk that, hey, if I could solve, remember I was like this little girl at this point in time, if I could solve this Rubik's Cube in less than 2 minutes, would you give me a free one? And they're, well, sure. And so I amassed this like huge collection of Rubik's Cubes. It was really super fun. And I've been doing it my whole life. But you know, it's really fun in this job because at the end of the day, I always say for somebody who wants to get into cybersecurity, perhaps the most important attribute is curiosity. Because you have to have that mind where you ask those questions, you're interested in how do I break into that, right? How do I break into it so that I know how I need to protect it? It's that hacker mentality that enables you to use creativity to solve problems. And so I love like puzzles because, you know, it's a good sign of people who want to like solve things. And so I use it as kind of a prop for recruiting a lot of the time because I often find that people who end up doing really well in cybersecurity are gamers or puzzlers. And so I think it's a really fun way to think about how to be successful in the field.
Yeah, it's a great metaphor. And plus it's really fun to do. My daughter showed me a video of, there's all these Rubik Cube contests and everything, of a guy juggling.
Oh yeah,
three
ones, yeah.
And
you're not going to see me do that.
And she says that, but later, I'm going to teach you how to juggle.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just say juggling is on the agenda for later.
See how that goes.
It's also a really very relaxing thing.
Juggling?
Yeah, and I'm guessing that for you, the Rubik's Cube also, well, I can see it's a fidget, which is always fun. I like to have those, but it can be very relaxing. I mean, it's mindful. Yeah. You're doing something, you know.
No, I find it's good to sort of concentrate.
Yeah.
Actually helps me focus, and so.
Yeah.
It's great.
So we've kind of talked about this creative notion of, you know, getting the word out. And it seems to me like building the audience to understand this is also an important aspect, and like diversifying who is getting this message.
Yeah. I mean, diversity in general, I think, is really, really important in cybersecurity, but I really fundamentally think it's important in any field at the end of the day. You know, this morning I was saying I started out as a cadet at West Point. 1986 I got there, and very few women. We were about 9%. So about 1,300 men, back then about 130 women. And it was not a diverse environment at all in any way. And you know, it gave me a real appreciation for the value of diverse teams, not just because it's the sort of right thing to do, but really because it's the smart thing to do from a data-driven perspective. You know, there's an enormous amount of studies where the data shows that diverse teams, and I'm talking neurodiversity, diversity of gender identity, sexual orientation, race, national origin, background, education level, that if you bring all that together, it actually just creates this diversity of thought, which allows you to approach problems different. And that allows you to solve problems quicker, faster, because everybody brings a different perspective to it. And so it's just a smart thing to do. You know, again, I think it's the right thing to do, but in cybersecurity, you really need the best minds looking at problems differently to be able to secure our world, to be able to defend our nation. So diversity in general, you know, we talked this morning about how important culture is and the core principles that we developed. You know, on our website, you can see, if you go to CISA.gov, culture, one of them is to foster belonging, diversity, inclusion, and equality. And I really think the most important one in many ways is sort of fostering a sense of belonging. Because, you know, it's one thing to feel like you're invited into the room, that you're included there, but I think it's entirely something different to feel like you actually belong there. And that's really up to the leadership to create that environment of psychological safety, where people feel like they can be themselves, they can challenge each other constructively, they can give feedback, they can receive feedback, and they can take risks, right? Where they won't be sanctioned for, you know, suggesting an idea that might seem out of the box, right? So I just think it's really, I think diversity is the key to all of that.
Yeah, it sounds too like creating an atmosphere of trust where, you know, you can work together. And yeah, I think about even, you know, when we were playing music this morning and, you know, and the students were all singing, that sets us up in a way that attending, you know, a lecture where people are just chatting at you is different. So, you know, having a PSA that's arts-based and, you know, setting up a situation where people can interact with each other. And I know from Jen that part of what they do at your high-level meetings as well is you've brought in arts to just bring people together as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think one of the things we're trying to do at CISA as an agency, it's very competitive for technical talent. You all know that, cyber talent. And so we want to be a different type of agency. We don't want to be just another lumbering government bureaucracy. We're pretty different in terms of how we can recruit people. We're pretty different in terms of the flexibility that we give the workforce, the focus on mental health. We talked about that earlier. And so we want to approach things very differently. And so, you know, people are like, oh, putting art and computer science together, that's kind of counterintuitive. And actually, it's not. You know, when you think about an agency that's fundamentally a partnership agency, because we don't, you know, again, we're not coercive powers, we're not a regulator, we don't collect intel, we're not law enforcement, we don't have badges. And so everything we do is about creating trusted partnerships. And that's both, you know, you have to be a subject matter expert at what you're doing from a technical perspective, but also you have to be really good at human skills, really good at creating connection. side, when we talk about empathy and being a good communicator, that's so important. And I think, you know, arts and things like that give you just such an appreciation for, I don't know, sort of beauty and joy and how that can be combined with the sciences.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. What we're going to do is I'm going to let Chuck say just kind of some thoughts he has about this, being a physics guy and a really just a terrific outside of the box thinker. And then if you have some questions, we'll have a little bit of time for questions. One thing that did occur to me though is when I think about, you know, many of our students and many of our students' parents, the PSA so lends itself to being in other languages because it's language, it's theater-based, but it's just language.
100%. We're totally doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're totally doing that. I actually rolled this out. I showed it in Singapore.
Oh, wow.
And we did it in all sort of the Asian languages. Not the translation yet, but we did Secure Our World. So we're translating it all. So for sure, it should be universal, frankly, because and that's one of the cool things about cyber security, really, because we're the defenders, right? I like to call myself the head goalie of Team Cyber. So we're just on the defensive side. And, you know, I spend a lot of time, because we're a partnership agency, with federal government partners, with industry, with state and local, with academia, with security researchers, but a lot of time with international partners, which is awesome because there's no difference, right? From here to Singapore, to Korea, to Nigeria, to Chile, you know, it's the same principles of cybersecurity all across the board. So we can all agree to it, which is like this universal language of cyber defense. It's another thing that I love so much.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And of course, the way you've done it lends itself to that
Yep.
perfectly.
So we're going to do the translation.
All right, Chuck, I'm going to hand it over to you because I could go on forever.
We all can. I just want to say, you know, I found that just truly fascinating discussion. There's a lot of directions you could go. I really like the leadership one and the human skills one, and just how critical that is. And I hope folks had a chance to think about that, because really putting a team together, I think, is essential. And how do you do that? How do you get the buy-in from these critical folks? But the one I think I want to, that struck me, and I think is important for all of us, a lot of times at the university here, we have very well-defined problems. We're given a problem to solve, and it's like, well, here's the parameters of the problem, go solve it. And we get used to that. And I like to call that pre-chewed food, right? It's like, okay, here you go, we kind of know what the answer is, and we're gonna give it to you and go have a shot at it. You do not deal in pre-chewed food. You deal in a situation where you don't know what is coming next. And I think what struck me is the idea of the importance of imagination in, like, hey, what is possible out there? Not just, oh, solve this problem. No. What problems are there that are going to come at us that we need to think about, and the importance of creativity and imagination, and a lot of those other side of the brain type skills in doing that. So that really struck me, and I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I gave this talk a couple years ago. There's a big conference for women in cyber called the Grace Hopper Conference. Some of you might have heard of it. And I gave this talk. It was called the Imagination Coefficient. And it was about basically like how imagination can amplify your ability to respond to the full range of good things and bad things as well. And you know, we live in a world where we're constantly, it's in this churn, right? I mean, it's very hard to be a long-term thinker. You know, we've got assignments due. If you're a student, you know, if you're in business, you're thinking about quarterly earnings. And so, you know, congressmen, every 2 years, they have to get reelected. There's a presidential every 4 years. It's very hard to be a long-term thinker. And in many ways, like to effectively be able to defend global security, certainly national security, you have to think out, well, what are the things that are the major threats? You know, climate is one, certainly. even in AI, that we're really grappling with, because I think I really fear that we will suffer a failure of imagination. When it comes to AI, people get so excited, and there is an incredible amount of things that AI can do. But when we don't like to think about the bad things that can happen, but there are many of them. And so I've been using this, I use this, talk about sort of AI as capturing the world's imagination, but I say it's the responsibility of leaders to be able to leverage the power of imagination while avoiding the failure of imagination. And in a world where you have the most powerful and transformative technology that we've ever known, we really have to think about that, because you all are inheriting this world, and your kids, your grandkids will inherit the world, generations beyond, and we want to leave it better than we found it, right? And that's part of being able to take that on board and, do something good.
Yeah, I know. The more I get educated in this, I listened to one of the podcasts with Dina Temple-Raston about the tractors, the John Deere tractors.
Hacking into tractors.
Oh my God! There were people who could turn off tractors, and it sounds like not a big deal, except if you think about some place like Ukraine, or where tractors are so important to harvesting food. You could really do some, and so
Absolutely. I mean, the truth of the matter is, because we didn't grow up in this world, but everything now is digitized. I mean, think about it. You can hack a tractor. How about hacking a pacemaker?
Oh.
Right? I mean, murder at the end of the world. That's right. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless, which is why it's so important that great people go into this field, but even more important that every single one of us knows what we can do to keep ourselves safe. Because those 4 things I said, those cyber hygiene, research shows that just doing those basic 4 things prevents 98% of cyber attacks. So any of you that are worried about ransomware or having your data, your data taken, just do those 4 simple things. They really are simple, right? So.
Really great. All right. Do we have a couple of questions from people in the audience? Is there anything or a comment that you'd like to make? Yes, back there. And I'll need to repeat your question. So, or Chuck, do you want to?
I'll take it back there. Yeah. Run right back to you.
Okay. And is there anybody else who has a question? We have time for just a couple.
Yeah, I am Mohammad Lutfur Rahman. I am an assistant professor in computer science department. So I work in cybersecurity, mainly so you may visit it. So we explore the threat intelligence of the SMISH. If you submit a SMISH, then we extract many attributes and also many information that we need for basically analyze those and try to track the bad people basically there. So you can visit smishtank.com. And one of the things I wanted to comment, basically the curiosity, you mentioned that, we need to be curious. As per my research, curiosity is one of the prominent predictor that people may fall into fish. Okay, in one of the study, we sent SMS to random user. We found that curiosity and people with PhD, not the high school, not the undergrad. People with PhD have higher chance of falling into fish, and one of the big reason is curiosity. So they just try to play with it, what in my inbox, and that basically may lead to like another kind of malware and installation in their device. So it's just a thought, and nice that we need a curiosity is one of the factor, and I'm really amazed your like human aspect of cybersecurity. That really a great things. Thanks for.
Maybe the lesson is the right kind of curiosity. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. My name is Mark Perez. I learned about this event through my son, who's a AMD major.
Oh, great.
Okay, don't hiss. Don't hiss. I'm a graduate student at CSU. And I wanted to let this panel know that along with Professor Bongsik Shin at SDSU, we have developed a security framework that has eliminated ransomware. It's gone. And I would like to provide you contact information if I may approach the bench.
Sure. Oh, my team's right there. They take,
There's the bench.
You're the bench.
the bench is right there.
Give them you. But thank you for your time. It was
Yeah,
great.
100%. 100%.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. So in just the, what, was there somebody else back there?
Make sure we have any questions. Yeah, we got one back there.
All right.
My cyber sister.
Yes. This is more of the public service announcement, I think, from San Diego. We are delighted to have Jen Easterly here, and we are delighted to have CSUSM, not just on a national level, but we have fabulous boots on the ground here as well. Joe, I'm looking at you. And we just want to make sure that everyone in this community knows, here in San Diego, we have a tremendous industry here that wants all of you to come join it. So all of you who are curious and who look at the world differently and have something to offer to this field, we are so delighted to have you join us from the industry side, from an academic side, from the government side. And so here in the region, we have the Cyber Center of Excellence. It's a nonprofit. We have a lot of workforce opportunities for students like you, and a fabulous amount of resources, including all of the CSUSM, small business, family, as well as workforce resources. So we hope you'll visit us at sdccoe.org, and this is just a big thank you and a big fangirling over here for the tremendous work of CSUSM for Jen and her entire team. So thank you, Jen.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Yay.
Yeah.
So it's just been delightful to learn from you today, and I just wanted to ask a follow-up question about that, bringing the diversity of the team, right? Because you said, like, it's important, the best minds, the diverse minds, and I know sometimes people have a hard time with that there's like that bias, and they think the best minds are the ones that had the same training they did. And I'm curious if you could say a little about how you, as a leader who value that diverse team building, work to get that diversity into the room and then cultivate that sense of belonging.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first it has to come from the top. You know, I mean, the fact that I'm a woman in cybersecurity, I think, helps. Because, you know, as I often say, I spent a lot of time recruiting, and we work with Girls Who Code, we work with the Girl Scouts, we work with, you know, all kinds of underserved populations to get them into this field. And so if you can see it, you can be it. There's a bit of that. But if I am very vocal about the importance of building diverse teams, and I'm not only vocal with my workforce about why I think this is important, but I hold my senior leaders accountable for when we do recruiting, when we do our hiring, to ensure that we are building these diverse teams that bring in different viewpoints. You know, one of the things, I realize I'm in a university, but one of the things that, you know, people who can be really good in this field don't necessarily need a degree. And there's a little bit of this sort of bias against, you must, you know, the government, you have to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD, and depending on what you have, blah, blah, blah. But like, we have a new authority that we just put in place a couple years ago where you don't need a degree. You know, you could be like the world's greatest hacker, world's greatest programmer, and that just could be something you've been doing since the age of 8. And so, again, like a different background. And so I think it's just me talking about it, me walking the walk, me holding my teams and them holding their teams accountable for creating that magic of diversity. And then we spend time in town halls. I do a lot of town halls because we're very flexible. We do a lot of telework, remote work. We're all over America. And we do a lot talking about the value and virtue of diversity. We bring in a lot of guest speakers. And so I just think, and the other thing that I think is really important is we talked a little bit about honest feedback this morning, which I just think, Like humans are just bad at that, bad at it, really bad. And I grew up in the US military, and for most of government, you get your performance rating from your boss, right? And it sort of incentivizes this little bit of managing up type, which I think is really bad. And so I really wanted to figure out how to incentivize people to truly treat feedback as a gift and to care what their peers think and what their teammates think. And so, simple tools, like a lot of people do 360s if you're in a leadership program. We just wanted to do it for everybody. Like everybody deserves to really hear, how they're seen both by their teammates, their peers, and their senior leaders. And people have a hard time with that. I did as well. But I think it's, people getting that honest, constructive feedback, right? Like people just being nasty or jerky. But if you really want to create a team that is going to be the best team to help safeguard the nation, I think we have to treat feedback as a gift. And so constructive confrontation, getting all the viewpoints out on the table, arguing things over, I think all that's really, really helpful, right? I don't want to be one of these people where people think they just, they just want to tell me what I want to hear. So oftentimes when I'm in meetings, I'll ask much more questions. I might give guidance at the end, but usually I'm asking questions because I really want to hear what people think. And I think it's just really, really important. And, like leaders are not born, leaders are made. And so I think, with every interaction, we can learn to be both a great leader as well as a great follower and a great teammate. Life is a journey of discovery. Yeah.
We have a room full of future teachers in here as well, and it appears you were innately curious. But what inspired you in a classroom to be curious, to stay engaged and ask questions? I don't think you were doing the Rubik's Cube under your desk, but probably some time.
Yeah.
What inspired you in a classroom?
So what inspired you in a classroom?
Oh, yeah. It's such a great question. So this is going to be a terrible answer. So at West Point, they use something called the Thayer method. And it's a lot of, I'm going to teach you something, I'm going to tell you what I taught you, and then I want you to tell it back to me. And the reason why that is, which I don't think is the best way to teach, is because it's an engineering school where it's very much you have to, understand the mission, you have to be able to give it back and memorize. So a lot of memorization. And I think it really was more of like, taught you what to think again. And so I did very well there. But I'm trying to think of the classes that really, really inspired me. And it's funny, like the class that comes leaping to my mind was a European history class where I had this professor. Most professors are military. This dude was a PhD from University of Wisconsin. And I did my work on art in that, and like how Gabriel D'Annunzio, and an art movement in Italy, futurism, sort of connected with the geopolitics of the time. And that got me, because this professor actually got excited about it. And so when I think back about that, it was sort of just it was how passionate he was about the subject matter, how excited he was, and then probably because he didn't approach it as a military person, he was a civilian. And so with the military people, they were sort of treating you as one way. And with the civilians, they could be more relaxed. I think that's what it was. But then I spent my graduate school at Oxford, and that was much more about how to think. And the professors there, you had these tutors, these dons you would go to, and you'd sit with them and you'd read them essays, and it was a much more intellectual exchange. as opposed to just I need to memorize this thing. And so I think for me, and then when I taught, it's much more about the engagement, right? The engagement. And I found when I was teaching at West Point, the thing that the cadets really, I think, what engaged them most was just the stories that I would tell. I don't know how much economics they learned, but I think they probably learned about being a great leader. And they still, I mean, for better or for worse, a lot of my students still, I'm still in touch with them. So, as I said, kind of life is a contact sport, and you know, every opportunity you have to build a connection with a human, whether it's professor to student. I should also say my mom was my dad's English professor, and they ended up getting married. So there's like a sordid story in there, but anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think it's sweet because my mom's 91, my dad's 85, and he talks about how when she was teaching him Paradise Lost in Milton, and it just like it cracked. My dad's so much better at me than describing this, but like it's just cracked the world open for him, right? So I mean, the most powerful people in most kids' lives is their teachers, right? At the end of the day, our teachers have the capacity to inspire and to shape people's lives more than anybody, right? And so it's like a gift, it's a responsibility, it's a burden in some ways, but I mean, I think it's a real privilege. So if anybody is going into education, like, God bless you. It's just, we need our best folks there, and it's the hardest job is probably the most rewarding.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of future teachers that are here today. I know because I know one of the classes, and your point is so well taken in terms of, feedback and working together. It's not easy, although if you start, in kindergarten, where kids are doing stuff and, we ask for 3 compliments and 2 suggestions. They're learning right away that this is like how we work. We take feedback, we give feedback, we improve our stuff, and it can start so early. And yeah, group work can be tough, but they learn how to negotiate and how to give, that your opinion doesn't have to be the right one all the time. Grit and persistence, all of that. And it seems to me like it's exactly what you're talking about in the field.
Yeah, grit and resilience, absolutely. And a bit of humility, I think. I mean, in a job as a leader of a big federal agency, I mean, you want to have confidence and all of that, but I really, am very, very cognizant of approaching things with a sense of humility in terms of, I certainly don't have all the answers. With some of my teammates who are much younger than I am, I'm learning a lot from them. Lisa's a great case in point there. Adam, Ashley, Joe, Vincent, if you surround yourself with great people, you don't need to be that great.
No, I'm totally with you. Yeah. Getting teams together is so important. So I know we're really at time. We're actually a little past time. Did you want to give, just let us know that you're, what you're working on? Like, you don't have to give any details, but I know there are more PSAs coming.
Yeah.
And are they more, like we've got more music, more art?
Yeah, I'm thinking, what are we doing next? We're doing like a little hackathon thing next?
Yeah, so we're going to go up, and you can join us. We're going up to the STEMbassy, which is second floor up right over here. We're going to talk about the spring hackathon is going to be coding, encoding, decoding, sending messages, whatever, with elements of music. So music, rhythm, harmonies, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to brainstorm on that.
Yeah.
We're going to just see some of the stuff that are STEAM and STEM. STEAM is art with STEM. So see what some of our STEM and STEAM ambassadors are doing, because we've got lots of ambassadors, and we're going to make little robots too.
Yeah.
So.
We're going to make robots. Okay. Well, we might, when we get to the hackathon, we might hack some cyber jingles. Wanna, like,
There
get
we
some,
go.
Get some ideas, right? We're
Yeah.
trying to get the cyber earworm. So those 4 things. So we might try it out on people.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Well,
Thanks,
you
everybody.
so much, Director Jen
Yeah.
Easterly. Yay.
Yeah. Fantastic. Can
Hey.
anybody solve these?
Who can do
I have
it?
any
Who can
cubers?
solve the Rubik's Cube? If you can do it in a minute or 2, you get to keep it.
Anybody do it in less than 2 minutes?
There's got to be somebody out here. There's some more refreshments for all of you in the back. And thanks again, everybody. And thank you, Wendy.